go ahead and get into a comfortable seated position. If you would like, you can sit on a folded blanket or a cushion. If sitting right on your bottom is not comfortable and you prefer to sit on some blocks with your knees bent in hero's pose, that's also an option. And you may also want to have some blocks nearby. Once you have found the position that you would like to start class in, if you feel comfortable, close your eyes or soften your gaze and just begin to breathe. Start with filling your belly and your back up to your rib cage and your lungs. And then release that out, whether through your nose or your mouth. And then once again, filling your body with air, with breath, with life. And releasing it all out, making space for new air, new breath, and new life. We will be looking at Psalm 23 today for this class. And I'll be reading portions of it as we move. I'm going to start with verse 1, and it says in the New Living Translation, "The Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. The Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need." As you continue to breathe, just notice what feels stuck in your body, in your mind, and heart today. Maybe physically, as we begin to move, you might notice certain areas of your body that feel tight or sticky. Or maybe there's a thought that just won't leave your mind. Maybe there is a weight or a heaviness or a feeling that you can't even name or put words to that won't leave your heart. This is not a time to judge or to even try to change it, but just to become aware. Move your arms out into a T position. And on an exhale, bring them in to a hug. That's right, just give yourself a hug. On an inhale, arms back out to this T position. And then when you bring your arms in for a hug again, put the opposite arm in the front. So if you hugged yourself with your left arm in the front the first time, do the right arm and switch. Now as you continue to move your arms with your breath, think about what needs to be released in your body, your mind, or your heart. And I'll read our verse once again. "The Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need." Is there anything in any part of you that feels resistance to that? You can continue moving with this open hug movement, or you can move on to some other beginning movements just to warm your body up and let it know that we will be moving. You can try breathing your arms up overhead, maybe side stretches on each side. moving with your breath, slowly and thoughtfully, releasing anything that feels stuck, maybe shoulder rolls or neck rolls, maybe a spinal twist. You can also try rolling your wrists and your fingers out. Often those little tendons and muscles and areas of our body take so much tension, yet we often forget to release it. Similarly with our feet, roll those ankles and wiggle those toes, spread them out. Taking the next few breaths on these beginning movements. Once you feel satisfied with those movements, go ahead and get into a table position on your mat, hands and knees. Hands are on the mat, arms are not locked, but strong. Under your shoulders, back is flat and parallel to the ground. We call this a neutral spine. Your knees are on the mat under your hips. Your pelvis is neutral, and we'll get to that in a moment. And your feet are flat on the mat. This is a safe home posture, so if you're ever feeling a little overwhelmed in any of the movements that I offer for you in this class, feel free to come back to this or any of the other home postures that I show you. In regards to a neutral pelvis, I had a teacher mention one time pretending that you had one of those giant rodeo belt buckles right where your belt goes. Then in order to have a neutral pelvis, your belt buckle would be facing directly towards your mat. Now we're going to very slowly move through cat and cow. So on an inhale, you're going to tip that belt buckle towards your thighs, keeping your arms and your legs in the position that they're in. And if there feels any extra pressure in your wrists, you may move your hands forward a handprint or two, and that will relieve some tension. Or you can put that blanket that we talked about earlier under your wrists. Very slowly tipping that belt buckle towards your thighs, tipping your pelvis, lowering your belly towards your mat. And then releasing in your shoulders, tipping your chest forward, opening up in your throat. And then lastly, if you feel comfortable, lifting your chin and your gaze up just slightly into our cow position. Now we're going to go into cat, which is just the opposite. So you'll slowly tip that belt buckle back up towards your belly. And you'll begin to arch your back as if you're a cat when they get scared or very high strung. Just one vertebrae at a time, as if your back were a string of pearls, just taking your time. And sometimes a couple of the pearls go together, and that's okay. Just moving very slowly is what we're looking for. Arching into your middle back and your shoulders, lowering that chest, and then your chin to your chest. And as we continue to slowly move into our cat-cow, take your time. Try not to rush through this. Often I have found in my own practice that when I try to do yoga for the sake of checking it off of a list or any movement practice, my body might feel a little better and I might feel temporarily okay that I got something done. but it's in those moments where I go slow and notice how my body feels as I am moving it that I really, really get to experience the practice, get to experience this body that God has given me. And I think with our verse, the Lord is my shepherd, I have all that I need. A shepherd has to be very patient because sheep do not move very quickly. But imagine all the things that a shepherd gets to see. The beautiful sights, the wildlife, the sunrises and the sunsets, because they go slowly. They take their time, they look around. And as we trust our good shepherd to have all that we need, we don't have to rush. We don't have to be in a hurry. Once you've finished your last cat, return to our tabletop position. You're going to reach out to the side with your right foot and placing your foot flat on the ground. So if your leg doesn't go straight out to the side, maybe release it back towards your mat more. The idea with your foot being flat on the ground. So however the angle of your leg looks, that's all right. We're going to inhale, tipping a little bit forward, and then exhale, releasing our hips back towards our feet. Now your hips do not have to touch your back foot. If you want to, and that feels comfortable and safe for you, then go ahead. If that's not something that your body wants today, then that's okay too. These poses or these shapes are just a framework, an offering for you to play around with. Your body moves differently than my body, and that's awesome because God's creative. So you move how your body is asking you to move today, and not trying to just match me on the screen. So continue moving forward with your breath, inhaling, exhaling, releasing our hips to our foot. Once more, forward, and then back. This may offer some opening in your hips, and it may not, and that's all right. Then you can put your foot back, your right foot back to the back of your mat so it's extended back behind you, and we'll just stretch out that hamstring forward and back just like we were doing, except for now your foot's behind you instead of out to the side. And then you can release that back to our table. Now we'll do this on the other side, so extending your left foot out to the side, and again the angle to which your foot is at is not as important or your leg that is not as important as having your foot flat on the ground. So moving it to wherever that makes it possible. And this side may be more or less open than the other side, and that's normal. As humans, we are not symmetrical, but we are balanced. And so sometimes one side is more tense than the other, more open. And that's just something to be aware of in your own body. And so we'll continue this motion, this movement of inhaling forward, exhaling, releasing your hips back, and then doing this a couple of times on your own, creating space, releasing those things that are in our bodies, our minds, and our hearts. Then extend your left foot behind you, and we'll do that release in our hamstrings and in our calves just a few times. Once you've done that a couple of times, return back to our tabletop position. I'm going to show you another safe home pose that if any time you feel like you want to come into this shape, please do. It's called child's pose, and there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. You can use the blocks or blankets that were offered at the beginning, or you can go without. You can have your knees directly below your belly, your chest, or you can have them out. I like to have mine out a little bit because I like to have a little bit more opening in my hips. What you're going to do is you're going to Get your knees positioned how you want, again, under your body or out to the side, and you're releasing those hips back, kind of like we did earlier, and then you can extend your arms straight out, lowering your upper body down, and this would be a point where you could put those blocks under your upper body if you would like more support, or maybe you don't go all the way down to the mat, and that's okay. Or if you would like the blanket under your body as well, that could be very restorative. Your arms can also go to the side of your body. That could be comfortable. Whatever way feels comfortable and nourishing to your body today, that's what you're looking for. This is one of those safe poses you can come to at any time. Finding your breath here. You can stay here, or we will continue to move. Releasing back up to table. You're going to tuck your toes, lift your hips up and back into our first downward dog. If you need to move your hands forward a bit, that's fine. You're welcome to adjust yourself. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking for awareness and what works in our own bodies. You can begin to pedal out here. Your knees do not have to stay straight. Your heels do not have to touch the mat. The idea is that your body is in a triangle shape. So if you begin to feel more pressure in your wrists, for example, making sure that you're getting those hip bones up pointed towards the sky, and that will help put some of the weight back into your feet and take it off of your wrists. If that still feels a little painful for you, you can put that rolled up blanket under your palms. That can help take some pressure off, or you can return back to the table position. From here, we will roll forward into a plank and then step up, walk up towards the top of your mat into a forward fold. And again here, just like downward dog, you want those hip bones to be pointing towards the sky. So we're not pulling on our lower back and bending your knees as much as you need to. Ideally, you're looking for your belly or your chest to touch your thighs or somewhere in that area. This is a good opportunity to see if your toes and knees are pointing forward, as that will give you stability and alignment as you move forward. Releasing your upper body, you can just hang here like a rag doll. Seems like a very simple pose, but it's probably one of my favorites, as it's just so relaxing. You could grab opposite elbows here. And just going side to side, swaying, releasing your neck. If you only have a few minutes every day during your day to stretch and release tension, I would definitely recommend a forward fold. Placing your hands on your shins or your thighs, you can lift halfway up. Back is flat and parallel with the mat. And then release back down. And then very slowly, just like we did cat-cow, very slowly, we're going to stand up. You've been hanging upside down for a little bit, so we just want to give our body a chance to slowly stand up into our mountain pose, which is another one of those safe poses. Toes are pointed forward. Knees are not locked. They're responsive and legs are strong. Hips are forward. Shoulders are forward and down away from your neck. They're under your ears. Gaze is soft, straight ahead of you. Chin is parallel to the mat. Your hands can be folded at heart center or to the side. And again, this is mountain pose. Here in mountain, going to move our arms to a T again, just like we did when we were seated. But now we'll be adding the standing to it. So arms to a T. And then hugging ourselves. Begin to forward fold very slowly. Once you've reached the point where you want to release your arms, go ahead. Half lift, and then slowly stand back up. And we'll repeat this, alternating the crossing of our arms, just like we did with seated position. Arms to a T, hug, slowly forward fold, making sure those hips are pointing towards the sky. Release your arms, half lift, and when you are ready, slowly begin to stand up. Continue this 3 more times on each side as I read the next portion of our scripture. Verses 2 through 4 say, He lets me rest in green meadows. He leads me beside peaceful streams. He renews my strength. He guides me along right paths, bringing honor to His name. Even when I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me. Your rod and your staff protect and comfort me. I love this portion of this chapter because it begins to detail what a good shepherd is. So many times the concept of good is hard to describe. And here in this psalm, it says that a shepherd, and a good shepherd at that, leads us to rest in green meadows or lush places. That He leads us to rest in peaceful places. That He renews our strength and guides us along the right path. How many times have we tried to find the right path on our own? And that when we walk, even through the darkest, heaviest, scariest places, we don't have to be afraid. Can you imagine? Because He's with us. It says, You're close beside me, that He protects and He comforts. When we are at our most vulnerable, He is with us, protecting, providing, bringing peace, comfort, rest, and strength. Knowing that about Him, can you release any of that stickiness that's in your body, mind, or heart to God? Now, as you release what was stuck, can you receive what is nourishing and life-giving? We'll get to that nourishing and life-giving portion of the scripture in a moment. But if you're complete with that portion of movement, meet in mountain. And you can step back into a lunge with your right foot. Again, hips are still pointing forward, front knee is bent, back leg is straight. And we'll go into that arms into a T shape again. Hug. The front arm makes no difference, whichever one makes you feel more stable and secure. And then we'll slowly lower our upper body inside that front bent knee into our humble warrior. And you might feel a little shaky, a little scary in those deepest, darkest valleys, but know that He is close beside you, giving you strength to do this. Release back up. And then you're going to pivot that back foot so that it's parallel with the short edge of your mat as we go into Warrior 2. So your front knee is still bent, your back leg is straight, and now your foot is flat on the mat. Making sure that your hips are even, so straighten that front knee for just a moment and placing your hands on your hips, making sure that they are even and not kind of cockeyed one way or the other. And then bend back into that front knee. Arms are out. And you can put your gaze in front of that, towards that front arm. Keeping your lower body the same, lower your back arm onto your back leg and reach your front arm up into a reverse warrior. Breathing here. Releasing what is stuck to make room for what is nourishing and life-giving. Back into our warrior 2. Then you're going to bend your front arm into a 90-degree angle and tip forward until that front arm is touching your front bent knee. We don't want to put a lot of weight into that front arm, so if you would like to use a block to support yourself, that would be fine. If you would like to try to reach for the floor or your calf or your ankle, that could be fun to play with. Into our side angle. Release back up into our warrior 2. Then you're going to pivot that your front foot so that it matches your back foot, both toes pointing towards the front, the long edge of your mat. Hands are on your hips. If you want to shorten the space between your feet, that would be fine, or you can stay where you're at. Hinging at the hips and leading with your heart, you are going to bend forward into a wide-legged forward fold. And again, block might be handy here to put your hands on, or if your hands want to reach the mat, that's fine. You can also put your hands on your legs. But once you have reached a position that feels stable, release your upper body. So it's just like our forward fold, except for your legs are more farther apart, hence the wide part. Just release here. Release anything that feels stuck. Creating space. Placing your hands on your thighs, push yourself up. Turn back into that warrior 2. And then into our lunge, and then step back up to the top of the mat. Swan dive down into a forward fold, just releasing all that heat that we just built up. Slowly make your way back up to mountain, and we'll do this on the other side. So stepping back into a lunge with your left foot, front knee is bent. That knee is tracking over your middle toes for good reference to making sure that that front knee is not going too far out or too far in, keeping that knee safe. Arms to a T. Give yourself a hug. And then lower that upper body inside that front bent knee into our humble warrior. As we're in this vulnerable position, physically, sometimes we feel like we are in vulnerable positions emotionally or mentally or maybe actually physically. We can know that our shepherd will protect us and comfort us, and that we don't have to be afraid. Releasing that back up. Pivot your back foot to prepare for warrior 2. A good tip here is to have your front foot, the heel of it, to match the back arch, the arch of your back foot. And that'll give you a good stability. Once you've got those hips balanced, arms are extended out, and face is looking over that front extended arm. Keeping your lower body the same. That back arm will slide down your back leg, extending your front arm up into a reverse warrior. Breathing here. Release back up to warrior 2. Bend that front arm, kind of like you're blocking a kick or something. And bend towards your front bent knee, hinging at the hips. And again, if you want to try to reach for the floor, use a block, your ankle, your calf, playing around in this space. You can give that a try. Releasing back up to our warrior two. Then you're going to make your front foot match your back foot, so all toes are pointing towards the long edge of your mat. Again, you can shorten your stance if that feels more comfortable and stable for you. Knees are softly bent, so they're responsive, not locked out. Hands on your hips, hinging at your hips and leading with your heart. Bend forward, and again, using blocks here can offer some stability. Or if you feel any tension in your lower back when you do these, this can take some of that pressure off. Or it can just make it a softer, more restorative pose for you. And that can feel nice too. Sometimes we feel like we have to do the hardest, what we deem the hardest, the most quote unquote advanced to be of any value. But sometimes it's just listening, and the hardest thing to do can be the softest thing. So do what your body needs today. It's all good. It's all good movement. Releasing the upper body. You can move side to side here, bending your knees. Shaking your neck out. Yes and no. I'll read verse 5. It says, "You prepare a feast for me in the presence of my enemies. You honor me by anointing my head with oil. My cup overflows with blessings." So as we release what is stuck, we make room to receive this nourishing, life-giving feast, this anointing, this blessing that our shepherd has for us. That if your arms are already full of something, you can't possibly take any more. But once you've set those things down, you can hold the things that are good for you. When you're holding things in your body or in your mind or in your heart, like unforgiveness, grief, pain, anger, sadness, perfection, the idea of I can do this myself. When you're holding tightly to those things, regret, grudges, we don't have room for the feast that God has for us. Can we release that to Him so that we can receive? Hands on your thighs and begin to push yourself back up. Move our feet back into warrior two. Then to our lunge, and then to our mountain pose. Just forward fold here, releasing anything that we have set up as tight or heat. And slowly make your way back into mountain. Just breathing here. Forward fold, and then step back into a plank, and then roll those hips up into downward dog. Adjust those hands and feet so that you feel stable. So you can widen or shorten your stance, making sure those hips are up, knees are soft. And we're going to move into a 3-legged dog. So you're going to lift up with your left foot into the air. And then bending your knee, we're going to roll forward back into that plank. You're going to set your left knee behind your left wrist. And then set your shin so that it is right behind your hands. Then you'll lower your back knee. And you have some options here. You're going to lower that back knee so it can either meet up with the underside of your front foot. So your knee kind of goes into the arch of that left foot, and that would be your deer pose. Or you can move that right knee into the kind of the middle of your mat and slide it back a little bit so you can feel it in your hip flexor into pigeon. Either of these are going to offer you similar sensations. So you find what works for your body today. Deer pose, which would be the two kind of right angles that your legs are making, or pigeon pose, which may offer a little bit more sensation depending on your body. And both are wonderful. And if neither of these work for you, you're welcome to go back into table. Once you've decided which position you would like to be in, you're going to slowly arch your back up into a little bit of a back bend. And then you're going to lower down onto your mat. You can use blocks here to rest on, your blanket, or your forearms. Just breathing here. Releasing what is not life-giving or nourishing to make room for what is. Wonderful. All right. To safely get out of this position, you're going to step that left knee back into table. So get into a table position very carefully. Take your time. And then push yourself back up to downward dog so that we can do this on the other side. Once you've found yourself in a stable downward dog, where you feel comfortable, safe, and strong, extend that right leg up and back into a 3-legged dog, bending your right knee as you roll forward into plank, and we'll get back into either pigeon or deer pose. So that front knee that you're bringing with you, that right knee, is going to go behind your right hand, and then you're going to set your shin kind of behind your hands. Lowering down, you can do deer pose on this side. Whether or not you did on the other side, you can do the same on both sides, or you can mix it up. For deer pose, you can set that left knee into your right arch and sit there, placing your hips down on the mat. Or you can do pigeon, placing that left knee a little bit more central on your mat and scooting it back so that you're feeling it a little bit more in your hip flexor. And even if you don't feel it, you might feel the extension a little bit more, creating a little bit of space. Whichever shape you choose to do, both are wonderful. You're doing wonderful. Find a slight back bend, just opening up in that chest. And then recline down, again using blocks, blanket, or your arms. And release to your mat. You prepare a feast for me in the presence of my enemies. You don't expect to find a banquet in a war zone. But because God is that good, because God is that safe, and that much of a protector. You can have abundance in the middle of a battle. Okay, we're going to slowly release out of this. So releasing that front knee onto the mat into table. Once you're there, find a seat on the mat and extend your legs out into a V. Placing your hands inside your legs, and your knees can have a soft bend to them. Inhaling, lift up, leading with your heart and hinging at your hips. Lean forward. And when you've reached a spot that still feels like an opening without it pulling on your lower back, you can release your upper body to the mat, to blocks, to a blanket. If it begins to pull on your lower back, just kind of release a little bit. Again, our aim is not to always go 110%. Our aim is to listen and to be aware. Some days our bodies are ready to climb a mountain, and some days our bodies need a little bit more rest and softness. And those are all good things. Our job is to listen. As we begin to slow down here, can you allow our shepherd, our good shepherd, to guide, protect, provide, and take care of you today? Release back up, and we'll do this towards our left leg. So rotating your upper body towards your left leg, hands on either side of your leg, inhaling to lengthen up, exhaling, leading with your heart and hinging at your hips. Begin to fold over your leg. Once you've found that spot, release your upper body. Release into all that the Good Shepherd has for you. Inhale back up. We'll do this on the right side. Turning your upper body towards your right leg. Hands on either side of your leg. Inhaling to lengthen up. Exhaling, leading with your heart and hinging at your hips. Finding that point to where you're ready to release your upper body over your right leg. Inhale back up, bringing your legs straight out in front of you. Cross your right foot over your left leg and begin to go into a spinal twist. Before you twist too much, lead with your eyes. Let your eyes look to where you want to go. And as you exhale, you can begin to turn your body to follow. And if any point your body is telling you this is as far as I would like to go today, then listen. Maybe it's not as far as you went yesterday. That's okay. Maybe it is farther than you went yesterday. That's okay too. The idea is to listen, to release this idea that we have to be this certain way every time we come to God, when really He just wants us to rest and to trust Him to take care of us. Releasing here. Extend your right leg out, shake those legs out. We'll do this on the other side. Left foot over your right leg. And again, spinal twist. So you can try putting your right elbow on the outside of that left knee. If that feels like too much, you can just use your hands. Leading with your eyes, bending in your middle back and upper back. We want to be gentle with that lower back. If you feel yourself tipping back a little bit, go ahead and extend your spine up instead of back and see if that creates more space. Release that. Go ahead and recline onto your mat, onto your back. If there's any props that you would like to use for Shavasana, have those close by. I often like to have a folded blanket under my head. Just helps me feel like I can breathe a little bit more clearly. And begin doing any final movements that your body might be asking for. Could be a waterfall, sticking those arms and legs up in the air and wiggling fingers and toes and moving wrists and ankles. Rolling into a ball, rocking side to side. Maybe it's doing a reclined figure 4, so setting your foot on the bent knee of your other leg and pulling that bent knee towards you. So you might feel some space and sensation on the outer hip of the leg with the foot on your other leg. And doing that on the other side. Maybe you just want to stretch out really, really far. Maybe you're already ready for Shavasana and you want to get there. That's wonderful too. Moving your body with a sense of peace, knowing that you are protected, that you're safe, that you're provided for. Offers a freedom, doesn't it? Once you've finished your final movements, find your version of Shavasana. This could be lying on your back, and again, using any props that feel comfortable. You could be laying like a star. You could have your hands on your body somewhere, your knees are bent, props underneath you, or just yourself laying on the mat. Maybe you don't like laying on your back. You want to sit up, or you want to get into child's pose, or any other position that just feels comfortable to rest in for a few minutes. Find that. Once you're there, do a final body scan of any areas where you still need to release whatever you're holding on to. Your scalp, forehead, even your thoughts, relaxing your eyes, and all your eye muscles, your jaw, releasing any words that you've spoken or someone's spoken over you, your shoulders and all the weight, those burdens that you carry, unclenching your fists. You no longer need to protect yourself. Releasing your chest from anxiety, your stomach from worry, releasing your hips, your bottom, all those things that you hide from others, releasing your legs, your feet, all the things you have to do and all the places you have to go. Release your toes. I'm going to read our final verse from this chapter and then give you about 5 minutes of silence for Shavasana, and then I'll bring you back with my voice to close. Verse 6 says, "Surely your goodness and unfailing love will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will live in the house of the Lord forever." Take the next 5 minutes just to receive that goodness and unfailing love that pursues you every day, knowing that you have the opportunity to be with the Lord, true love, our Good Shepherd, forever. Begin to slowly deepen your breath, bringing your awareness back to your mat. Adding small movements, wiggling fingers and toes. Begin to make those movements a little bit bigger. Bringing yourself back to this present moment. Taking the next few moments to slowly move your body to a final seated position. Once you are there, we will close this practice in a similar way to how we opened it, by releasing. Spinning your arms into a T and bringing it into a hug, using this breath prayer from verse 1. The Lord is my shepherd, and as you hug, I have all that I need. Inhaling, extending your arms. The Lord is my shepherd, almost a position of worship. Hugging, I have all that I need. Once more, the Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. Using this prayer throughout your day. God, we thank you that you are our shepherd and we have all that we need. May we trust in you for your guidance, protection, provision, comfort, and care, that you are our God of abundance. I pray peace, love, and joy upon each person today. Amen.